Hey guys, let's look at 3.3. We're going to talk about standard form of linear equations. So standard form is another way to write the equation of a line, and we might write something in standard form based on the data or the information that we're given in a real life situation. But we can also take some valuable things from standard form. So standard form is written ax plus by equals c, where a and b are both the rates and c is my total amount. So this would be used in a situation where we have two different things and together they give you something. Two different rates and they give you a total. So as you can see, I have a as one of my rates. You would multiply that by x and then add it to b, another rate, times my y value, equaling c, which is my total. So now that we've identified what standard form of a linear equation is, let's use standard form to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept that are key features of linear functions. So to find an x-intercept, I want to let y equals 0. If you recall, when we learned about the key features, whenever we have an x-intercept, then my y value is going to be 0, right? It's x comma 0 if it's written as an ordered pair. So to find the x-intercept, we simply plug in 0 for y into the equation and then solve for x. So it would look something like this. If we are writing ax plus by equals c, we're going to rewrite it with ax plus b times 0 equaling c. When we do this, it's going to allow us to solve for our unknown variable x, because in standard form, a, b, and c will all have numbers or values to them, and our x and our y will still be our unknown. So let's look at an example. If I'm given 3x plus 4y equals 12, in order to find my x-intercept, I want to replace y with 0. Because to find my x-intercept, I need to have it be where y is 0. So I'm going to rewrite my equation, and the only thing I'm going to do is plug in 0 for y. So I'm going to write 3x plus 4. I'm going to use parentheses, 0. Let me do that in green. Equals 12. Now I'm just going to solve to get x by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is follow my order of operations, and I'm going to use PEMDAS. 4 times 0 is 0. So 3x plus 0 equals 12. Now, 0 is 0, so we don't need to write it. So what we're actually left with is 3x equals 12. You'll notice that this situation always is happening. When you're looking for the x-intercept, you can just know that whatever your b value is times y is going to be 0. So you're looking at your ax equaling your c value. And then I'm going to divide each side by 3 to find what x is when y is 0. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so we're left with x equals 12 divided by 3 is 4. So my x-intercept is 4. Remember, we can also write that as an ordered pair. So 4, 0. Now let's looking at finding the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, we're going to let x equal 0. So it's the opposite of the x-intercept. Okay, and when you're looking to find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for the opposite letter x. And remember, we write that as 0, y. So this time, if we have ax plus by equals c, we're plugging in 0 for the x, and everything else stays the same. So if we have 3x plus 4y equals 12, then I'm going to take 3, and instead of x, I'm writing 0 plus 4y equals 12. 3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 4y equals 12. So if you notice when you're finding the y-intercept, we don't really have any of the a and the x anymore. We're just looking at by equals 12. Because what we really have here is 4y equals 12. I divide by 4 on both sides to find what y is. 4 divided by 4 is 1y. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. That's your answer, but just like with the x-intercept, we can write it as an ordered pair. That would be 0, 3. Right? That's a quick and easy way. This is going to help you find key features, find the x-intercept and the y-intercept from standard form. Once we have those 2 points, we can graph those 2 points, right? We're given 2 points. I know my x-intercept, I know my y-intercept. As long as I have 2 points, I can graph my line. And from there, I could find the slope or find anything else about the line. So let's try some practice problems and graphing from there. So step 1, find the x-intercept. And then step 2, find the y-intercept. And then graph those 2 points, like I just said. And then connect them with a smooth line. From there, we can find our slope. And other things. So to help us find my x and y intercepts, we have a tiny table. Okay, and this tiny table is just a way to help us organize and make sure we know what we're finding. In each row, you should have a 0. So if we're looking to find the x-intercept first, I need y to be 0. And then I'm also going to look for my y-intercepts, which is when x is 0. Okay, so this tiny table helps me make sure that I'm actually plugging in the right values. So I can take my equation, which is 4x minus 2y, but instead of y, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. So minus 2 times 0 equals 8. Okay, I know that just leaves me then with 4x minus 0, because negative 2 times 0 is 0, equals 8. So I'm looking at 4x equals 8. Divide by 4 on both sides of my equation, and I am left with x. I guess I could write it right there. X equals 2 or 2, 0. Now remember, another name for x-intercept is 0. It is important to note that. Okay, if you're looking for the 0 of the graph, it is where the line crosses through the x-intercept. Now let's find our y-intercept. So I start by writing the equation. Oh, before I do that, let's plug in my value for my tiny table there. We have a 2, so when y is 0, x is 2. Now continuing to find my y-intercept, we have 4x. Instead of x, I'm going to plug in my 0 this time, and then continue to copy. Minus 2y equals 8. 4 times 0 is 0, so 0 minus 2y equals 8. That gets me negative 2y equals 8. Divide both sides by negative 2. And I get y equals 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4, or 0, negative 4. So I can plug in my value right there. When x is 0, y is negative 4. So this tiny table just helps make sure that I'm finding the correct values, okay? If it is helpful for you, do it. If not, you can use this method over here, right, where you just know I'm plugging them in, and just plug them in just like that and like that, or like we did. But if using the table helps you, then great, do it. It can also help you find the slope. But no, we don't need that, because we can plot the points. That is our next step. So now I'm going to plot the points. Okay, I have my x-axis and my y-axis. I'm going to plot my x-intercept first, which is 2 to the left and 0 up, right? And now I'm going to plot I'm going to label it 2, 0. Now let's plot my y-intercept, which is 0, negative 4. Right there. now that I have them, I have a nice line that I can graph. If I can draw a straight line here. Well, that was almost it. Close enough. Okay? Just like that. From there, I can then find my slope. So let's count rise over run. We have up 1, 2, 3, 4. Over 1, 2. My slope is changing y over changing x. That would be 4 over 2. My slope is positive, so my value is positive. My slope is 2. All right, if I wanted, that meant I could have other points on my line identified. I don't have to, but I would know that I have a point right there. Right there, so that's how you know my graph isn't perfect. And right there. This is why I should use a ruler. And this is why you should use a ruler. All right, and let's look at example 2. Remember, your hint is to make a tiny table. If that's not helpful for you, don't use it. But I'm looking for when y is 0 and when x is 0. What is x when y is 0 and what is y when x is 0? Let's start out by finding what x is when y is 0. So I'm going to leave x there. Plus 2 times 0 equals negative 6. That means I have 3x. 2 times 0 is 0, so I don't even need to write it. Okay, 3x equals negative 6. Divide by 3 on both sides, and I get x is negative 2. So that means my 0 is x equals negative 2, or negative 2, comma 0. Now to find my y-intercept, I just plug in x for 0. 3 times 0 plus 2y equals negative 6. 3 times 0 is 0, so all I have is 2y equals negative 6. Divide by 2 on both sides. Y equals negative 3. And there is your answer. Now finding my slope, right? I'm going to have to plot my points. So I have my 2 points, negative 2 comma 0. Let's do this one in green. Negative 2 comma 0 and 0 comma negative 3. I'm going to draw my nice... That's not terrible, I guess. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, my nice line there. And then I'm going to count rise over run. So 1, 2, 3. It's going down, so it's negative. And then 1, 2. Okay. I did notice that as I look left to right, my graph is going down. So I know my slope needs to be negative. Change in y over change in x. Negative 3 over 2. That can't be simplified. So my slope is equal to negative 3 halves. Number 3 is an example of how you would see it with 2 different rates, and then there is a grand total. So think if you sold a total of $16, right? A total of $16. So that's going to be your C value worth of child and adult tickets. Then you lost track of how many of each ticket you sold, but you know that each adult ticket is $4 and each ticket, child ticket is $2. Then you could set up an equation to determine how many adult tickets you sold and how many children tickets you sold. We can use the function 4x plus 2y equals 16. Because 4 is the rate for the first variable, right? It's $4 per adult ticket. And then 2 is the rate for the second variable of children's tickets. And then 16 is the total amount of money. So we can graph that and find our x and y intercept, and then from there graph it and then be able to answer any kind of question you would see about this problem, or just in general, you would know how many tickets you had sold of each, so you could keep track of people coming in and going out. All right, so it's the same idea. We can complete this little tiny table. That is not what I want. Right? 4x. Let's not write so big. 4x plus 2y equals 16. First, let's plug in 0 for y. Always write it out so I know which one I'm plugging in for. I know I'm plugging in 0 for which variable. That gets me left with my ax equals c. 4x equals 16. Divide by 4 on each side. And I am left with 16 divided by 4 is 4. So I know my point is 4, right? When I plug in 0 for my y value, I get an x value of 4. Now let's find my y-intercept. Plugging in 0 for x. So this time I'm going to be looking at my by equals c. So that is 0, so I'm just looking at 2y equals 16, divided by 2 on each side. Y equals 8. So when I plug in 0 for x, I get a y value of 8. Now that I know that, I have both my points, right? 4, 0 and 0, 8. I can graph that. So 4, 0 and 0, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. We can create a nice graph of the line. And now I know how many tickets of each I could sell. For each of them, I could find that out given this information. Right? This would determine the different possibilities. Anywhere on this line, I could have sold this many, right? I could sell, and what this is telling us is you could sell 4 adult tickets, but you would be able to sell none children tickets. You would be able to sell none of them. I know this because it says 4 times x, and so x has to be the adult ticket cost, because adult ticket cost is $4. All right, and then the same way, the 0, 8 means that I can sell 8 children's tickets, but I won't be able to sell any adults. And then anywhere on the line, especially those where that is a pretty point, because you can't sell part of a ticket, would be an opportunity to demonstrate or to show what that combination of tickets would be.